Threads of Enlightenment. As usual, I like to stop right here and take the time to welcome our guests, but I want to thank them for a couple of things that I deem very expensive in my life. And I know for a fact that those that are awake and are on the journey, that perpetual journey that we're all on, uh, time becomes valuable to them as well. And I want to thank Kevin for coming and share some of that time, because time is a beautiful commodity that a lot of people don't understand the value of it. The other is their journey. Their journey housed who they were, but it made them who they are today. And so I want to thank them for coming and sharing some of that powerful journey and the insights that they gained within that journey that made them who they are. Kevin, thank you for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Tell the people about everything that you have designed. I know you have a lot, so tell them about the main things that you have gained from your journey. And then what we're going to do, as we do here, the people know, we'll go back and deconstruct that and delve into it and pull more insight out of you from our conversation. So tell them the things that you have created so far, because I tell them, Kevin, all of us are creators.
Okay. Well, I started out this chunk of my journey as a professional astrologer. I have been teaching and counseling as an astrologer since, I don't know, 1998. I've been teaching since 2000. I've written a bunch of astrology textbooks. I have an online academy where I've been teaching and training astrologers. I think I launched my online courses in 2012. And I have been on this journey to get astrology to do what it was supposed to do, because it always made all these great promises for me, and it never quite had the answers. And I apply a lot of critical thinking. I understand how people learn. So I developed all of these courses over so many years. I mean, people study astrology for 30 years and they can't interpret a chart. Nothing takes 30 years to learn. So the problem isn't with astrology. The problem was with how people were studying it, how they were learning it. And so I did that for many, many years. Would periodically come up with an idea, build classes around it, develop it, have training programs, and then I realized, this train doesn't go to the station I think it goes to. And so I'd trash the whole curriculum and say, new thing.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, as usual in the middle of a training program, I realized, this is not going to continue the way that I thought it was going to continue, because I've got these new ideas coming up and I have a lot more excitement about these than what we're doing. And God bless my students. They were like, okay, great. We'll just follow you. We'll just go wherever you want us to go with that. And what that turned out to be was something that I started calling the human game. And it took about a year of figuring out, I mean, literally pulling on the thread. So I've got something, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to follow this. Before I realized what it was, because I was looking at what it could do. It was, this is a great way of coaching, and it's a really empowering way of working with astrology, and it's a lot of fun, and yes, it's a game, and all of this stuff. And then I finally realized, it's a philosophy. I'm a philosopher. But that described it, because this framework of the human game is so big, and it creates a framework that connects and organizes all of these disparate things that I have studied and explored and worked with for like 30 years of a spiritual journey. And they're all organized within this frame. It's like, I see how I can put consciousness in with the astrology and have it make sense. And so the human game is a philosophy based on the idea that the universe is made up of stories. If Everything is story. When you understand story, you can understand anything.
Mm.
This is not a radically new idea. There are Facebook memes of, ooh, the universe is made up of atoms, the universe is made up of stories. Great idea. I've actually taken it and said, okay, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What makes up a story? How does story work?
Hmm.
In the human game, and I emphasize, I call it the human game because, human, and also it's a game. The whole point is to have fun.
Yeah.
It's a way, it's a philosophy, it is a way of engaging with your life. It's a way of looking at things and going, oh, I see the story. So your story
Hmm.
of your life is a story. You are the main character of the story of your life.
Yeah.
And with the human game, you can, from within the story, you can improve the story because there's one law. There's a bunch of rules of story, but there's one law of the
Yeah.
human game, and that's the best story wins.
Yeah.
So as long as you can improve your story, make your story better, that's going to become your reality.
Hmm.
I have been playing the human game pretty much nonstop for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
In the last 2 years, I have had more fun than I had in the 53 previous years of my life put together. It is just what this can do. And I'm easily amused, but it's
Yeah.
taken me 2 years to get this to the point where I could finally, ironically, tell the right series of stories so that this makes sense to other people. So other people can not only go, wow, he looks like he's having a lot of fun, or that's an interesting idea, and take the step
Yeah.
into, ooh, I see how this works for me. Oh,
Yeah.
I can find happiness in my life with this. Oh, this
Yeah.
is fun. This is a new way of looking at things in my life.
Yeah.
And so, what I have finally available now,
Mm.
I have uh, the ability to work with me one on one in a coaching program where I will coach you through playing the human game and basically help you to build a happiness GPS based on
Yeah.
your birth chart. It's going to give you turn by turn directions to the best possible outcome in any situation. I have a free series of classes just giving you an introduction about the human game. And if you're actually interested in astrology, not what you think astrology is, not sun signs and things, but just kind of interested in what astrology might be and don't really want to learn that much, but I'd like to know how to play with it, I have
Yeah.
a class open to anyone called Astrology and the Human Game Foundations of Happiness. And this will teach you the little bit of astrology that you would need to know to be able to understand how you build astrology stories and how those astrology stories, you can apply them in your life. Because your birth chart, the thing that I love about astrology is that when you understand some of the principles of astrology, you are never going to be faced with a blank page when you're writing the story of your life. You have got this
Hmm.
toolkit of all of these story tropes, all of these possibilities that you can just go, oh, yeah, I'm going to activate that. I'm going to pull
Yeah.
that into
Yeah.
this. And you're off to the races. So, in a nutshell, those are the things that are kind of available now. And I'm sure we'll circle back around and there'll be questions and more things about,
Excellent. Yeah,
about stuff.
definitely. We're going to go into the nuts and bolts of some of those things that
Oh, I
you
should
had
I should I should
discovered
put out the
within the.
URLs. So
No, I'll make sure they have all of that stuff.
okay,
I'm gonna
awesome,
make sure that everyone has access to everything you have. We're gonna find it all, and
awesome. Thank you.
if you want to, Kevin, just send me your stuff. But we usually find it. They hunt for it, man. So it's good. It gets to be a lot of fun. So talk to us. I always tell people when we come and we enter into this plane that when we acquire our human body and we land. The first unit by which we then begin our existence is called the family on this earth. I call it a lab, It is the place by which we have these scientists that are called parents that are now going to begin to um, exercise and practice their theory within our life, and their thesis is how they want to live here. So
Mhm.
talk to us about that. How was that existence and that learning place right there? With dealing with your family, if you have any siblings, what was your life like, Kevin?
Um, in the context of how did those people turn me into me?
Pretty much.
um,
Yeah.
uh, I uh, had a a nice upbringing. I mean, it's
Hmm.
I you know I didn't grow up knowing anything different.
Yeah.
When I got to college and met other people, I sort of realized, oh yeah, my family was kind of remarkably not dysfunctional to the degree that
Yeah.
I had issues, but no, I like my family.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of laughter. My father, my
Yeah.
father definitely influenced my sense of humor
Yeah.
quite a lot, and we had a close family. But but also, um, I didn't. They didn't they were very supportive of me. They didn't entirely know what to do with me.
Yeah.
Um, and let me throw some human game context
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
this. Um, basic basic information about story.
Hmm.
Every story, story is the smallest unit of reality. Every story operates on three different levels. Each
Hmm.
level of story is its own story. So the plot level is the title of the plot level story is just the facts, man. It's the
Yeah.
objective sequence of events. It's just what happened. This is where most of us sort of operate with our lives. We pay attention to the plot level, the sequence of what we think happens. The character level story is what happened to you. So the
Hmm.
title of the character level story is What's in It for Moi? And there's a little Miss Piggy in that meme.
Yeah.
Um, and so the character level story is how those external events affected you. How do you feel about those external events? Totally
Yeah.
different story than what happened. And
Hmm.
then the theme level story is the big universal archetypal spiritual capital T truth. It's
Yeah.
entirely symbolic. Title of the theme level story is The Da Vinci Code.
Hmm.
It's entirely symbolic. You make it all up because it's not technically real, but that's also where we find the deeper experience of meaning.
Yeah.
So it's so you get to and this is one of the things like, oh, now I understand some of the struggles that I've had, because so much of spirituality, so much of spiritual teachings originates at that theme level,
Hmm.
and in its own little box it makes sense, it sounds wonderful, but the theme level is two steps away from the plot level where you live, and it doesn't directly translate there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that bridge between what do I have, this understanding of this spiritual truth and it's this wonderful ideal, and how do I connect that to my day-to-day plot level story? And the human game kind of gives a framework to make sense of that, because yeah, there is a gap, and you're missing a step to be able
Hmm.
to make that connection. And then every story is divided into three acts.
Yeah.
And so act one is sort of the setup.
Hmm.
And then act two is where all of the action happens. And then act three is the climax and the resolution. So
Hmm.
when you're talking about families, you're talking about the origin story. You're talking about act one. You're talking
Yeah.
about the things that have to happen. The things, and so in act one of the story, your character, do not want to change. You just, you're trapped by a lie. That's act
Hmm.
one of the theme level story, is some lie that you believe about your reality. But you just want to get along. You really don't want to mess with. You just want to keep your head down and put up with stuff as long as you possibly can. And then
Hmm.
there's a breaking point. Something gets to the point where you realize, no, cannot put up with this anymore.
Yeah.
I have to confront the lie. I have to leave my comfortable normal world. I have to go out into the unknown, into the act 2 adventure world. And that's where everything changes. Um,
So, what were some of those lies, Kevin, that in Act One that governed the scenes that affected the character? What were some of those
oh,
lies that were part of the play from that point of view? And what happened to that character development based on that? I know you said that your family didn't know how to deal with you. What was those lies doing to you?
well, wow. Okay, give me a minute. You're asking me to put together my theme level story. I haven't actually written that out
Yeah,
in a way. Um,
yeah,
one of the things, and again, let me also be clear in terms of how these stories unfold, like hands of the clock. Plot level stories the second
yeah.
hand, character level stories the minute hand, theme level stories the hour hand. These theme
Yeah.
level lessons often take more than one lifetime to
Yes,
resolve.
to manage. Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
one of the big theme level lessons that I am engaging with, that is a ongoing theme in my story, has ultimately it's about love.
Hmm.
Ultimately it's about connecting to other people.
Yeah.
And growing up, the lie that I experienced, my origin story, had me feeling very isolated,
Hmm.
and very separate, and not having a lot of close relationships and not having a lot of close friendships. And that's an ongoing thing. And it's ironic, I suppose, because I'm looking at broader things in terms of where I am with my story and the goals that I now have and the new stuff I'm doing with the human games. Like, okay, great, now I've launched this. Now I have, now I'm working on this next phase with the goals and the coaching, and what do I need to do with this? And I'm looking at all of the stuff and I'm going, oh yeah, I got to deal with other people. I can't achieve any of the goals that I want to achieve without
Yeah.
actually deepening relationship and deepening connection to other people and relying on other people, which is the thing I have built my entire life to be so self-sufficient, so I don't need to do that. And it has
Yeah.
been great gifts out of that. And I'm realizing, oh yeah,
Hmm.
I'm now at the point of the story where that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. It always serves us to a point,
Yeah.
Kevin. That's why I ask these questions. And
Yeah.
so,
But it does, but
the
here's the thing.
hmm
It serves. So one of the other things that I love about the human game, when we look at the story and think that that it's only our perspective of things, that
yeah,
I'm only the character in the story, it's easy to judge. Oh, I had these horrible things happen. I had such a terrible. It's like, okay, well, that was lousy for your character, but you know something? You're not just your character in your story. You're the
yeah,
main character in your story. You're also the audience of your story, and you're the author of your
yeah,
story. And just because the story wasn't pleasant to experience as your character doesn't mean it's a bad story. The part of you that's
yeah.
watching it, the audience, is going, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next. And having that perspective, realizing, yes, your story can suck for your character, doesn't mean it's a bad story. And there are things you can do to make it a better story and more pleasant for your character.
Yeah.
But one of the rules of story is what I call the rule of compensation.
Hmm.
And the rule of compensation is that every gift has a price and every price has a gift.
Hmm.
Nothing is taken away from you without something of equal or greater value being given to you in return. You don't necessarily automatically see what that is. Sometimes you have to go up to the counter and demand your gift, but it's there.
Yeah.
And whatever trauma, whatever challenging, uncomfortable experiences you had in your origin story, yeah, you can focus on that. That's the price. You're done paying that price. What's the gift that you got from that? Because there's a gift waiting for you. You have to claim it. And that seems to take some of the sting out of our old stories and our old judgments. It's like, oh, yeah, no, you paid a heck of a price. Let's figure out what the gift is for that because it's there.
Yeah.
And then you get to go into
Yeah.
the training montage of, oh, how do I get to use the gift? What is, discovering what it is. You
Yeah.
find your superpower because
Yeah.
why not?
It is the assignment that we have to take. The origin story, the trauma that takes place there, it kind of forms it. It's a double-edged sword, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
In the first phase of the act, it controls us, and then as the act moves on, it comes to a place where that trauma no longer serves us, and then that we have an opportunity to begin act two of that trauma, and that is of looking at the value of that trauma, the purpose of it. And once we
Mm-hmm.
switch that perspective and understand that, then we begin to, as you said, we begin to get the revelation that, wait a minute, I'm not just one that is walking in a character in the play. I can and I am the writer of the play. I am the director of the play. I am all of these, the producer of the play. And then when you
Mm-hmm.
get that revelation, is when you then began to change the play as to what you want, what outcome do you want to happen from this, once you have that revelation. And that's the journey, Kevin. A lot of people don't know that they are the writer. They don't know that they are the director. They don't know these things until, and I call it, they are operating in the play by default. They're just
Well,
doing it just because they're doing it.
we,
But then
we
when you
all are.
realize, we all are, but when you realize, wait a minute, there's a part that I have to play other than the victim. I can become something else. And you begin to rewrite the script, if you will, as you move forward. So here you are learning all of these things. You're a young man, you're have challenged your family. You're moving into your college time, and as you
Mhm.
begin exposed again to other um, perception, other belief systems that you are looking at as an individual, this character within the global play, but yet being affected by all of the origin story and the character development piece. How was your character being developed as you now begin to get exposed to all of this additional stories that are presenting in the form of new encounters as you move through your life?
Well, um, I went into. I made a decision eighth grade. Probably, I wanted to be an actor, and then that was
Hmm.
it. And I went to college, and fortunately didn't go to just a theater school because there was a part of me that was at least smart enough to go, yeah, don't give up, don't just go to a theater conservatory. Actually, keep the academics because you know the part of
Yeah.
me that knows, this is not going to end where you think it's going to end. Um, but I look, but I had decades of theater training, but initially thinking that
Yeah.
it was wanting to be an actor, wanting to be a performer, because
Hmm.
need the love, need the applause.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the underlying driving thing for that, total. I mean, and my my character, and
Hmm.
again, I mean, this is and again, this is another thing I want to clarify. There's, you know, I am not this person, but the character I'm playing in this story is the character of Kevin B. Burke. The character you're playing in the story of your life is the person pictured on your driver's license. That's not who you
Hmm.
are. That's your
Yeah.
character. But the point of this is for you to give the best possible performance of that character.
Yeah.
It's not do the bypass and, oh no, I'm actually an eternal multidimensional being. Yes, you are. You're the actor inhabiting the character. But you know something? Nobody wants to see Meryl Streep. Nobody wants
Yeah.
to see the actor. They want to see Meryl Streep portray they want to see her lose herself in the character.
Yeah.
So my character, little too smart for his own good and very, very, very focused. I mean, the log line of my character, the thing that my parents always reinforced and said, we knew that whatever you put your mind to, you were going to accomplish.
Yeah.
And so this is how I pinballed through my life for many, many, many years, setting a goal and going, nope, that's it, and just absolute focus on that, and I'm going to make that happen.
Hmm.
And just, bouncing around and getting, in a, eventually getting the sharp edges sort of sanded off. It was not a fun experience for the
Yeah.
character. Amusing in retrospect, great for the audience, but for the character it kind of
Yeah.
sucked. But that's how I would do things. Oh, I'm going to do this. This is going to be the answer. That's the thing that's going to make me happy. That's the thing that's going to fix everything. And barrel at that until I hit the brick wall, and then that would collapse, and then go do something else. And so there was a lot of that, and a lot of
Hmm.
learning with that.
Yeah.
You mentioned in our I think before we actually went on air, but you mentioned talking about how the most important objective is service.
Hmm.
And I remember, um, probably would have around 1995, I just met and started working with one of the women who was just a profound spiritual teacher for me.
Yeah.
But I was a very different person at the
Yeah.
time. And I remember her talking about dedicating her life to being of service and the idea of being of service. And I remember just
Hmm.
not getting it. I just
Yeah.
was like, I don't, I could not see that as anything that would ever be of interest to me,
Yeah.
because what about me?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember, that's a little snapshot reference memory of that's what my reality was. That totally different
Yeah.
reality now.
Hmm.
But you mentioned that. I was like, yeah, I was there. I remember
Yeah.
where it's like, what do you mean giving your life of service? No.
Yeah.
I want to do things. I want to enjoy myself.
But there's something that is in that space now. You see it. There is such joy. There's such revelation. There's such it's a totally different space to be in. And
Well,
when you live from there, I tell people try to get there as quickly as you can, because when you live from there, life becomes this most beautiful, engaging exchange with people, exchange with nature, exchange with everything. And it is a beautiful place to live. So, Kevin, I have a question to ask you.
Okay.
All of this is happening in your life, and I want to know what was the catalyst, because I know there are breadcrumbs that goes along with this, but we have a catalyst that will steer us to that destination. What steered you to astrology? How old were you? What was that incident that made you go, okay, I think this is it?
um, uh, I had always had sort of a vague interest in astrology, as most people do, because it seems to promise, all of the insights into who you are and all the answers. And obviously, if I could understand myself better, I could probably very happily be happy.
Hmm.
And then in 1992, I was rear-ended on I-5,
Hmm.
and bought a new little Mac computer with the settlement, and had some money left over, and that was found money, so it had to go to something fun. And I had been
Yeah.
seeing this astrology software advertised in the back of Macworld magazine. None of these things exist anymore, of course.
Yeah.
And bought the astrology report writing software, and I
Hmm.
started a business running astrology charts. I had a nice little calligraphy font. I was doing them on parchment paper. I thought I'll do these really nice bound astrologer. And I ran a business as an astrologer for a couple of years, running these reports, not understanding a damn thing about astrology. Um, and tried to learn it myself and couldn't.
Yeah.
And then in 1995, I started taking classes with the teacher with the astrology teacher I studied with in San Diego for a number of years.
Yeah.
And was that first astrology class was absolutely, um, I mean, before and after with my life,
Hmm.
um, because in that class I met someone that became a very, very important part of my life, and through that person I met the the people that became my initial group of spiritual teachers.
Yeah.
And it just, I mean, everything literally is like, okay, no, totally different from that moment. Um, and it
Uh,
really was, and it was me in a typical way going, I'm going to conquer astrology. I'm going to beat this into submission. It promises answers. It's
mhm.
going to give me those answers.
Mhm.
Don't, you've been
Now,
promising this, you're going to give me these answers. And I have been described as a dog with a bone, because I never gave up,
mhm.
but had to take you know all sorts of different approaches, figuring out, okay, well, and also realizing I was never, part of me understood it probably wasn't about the astrology,
Mhm.
but you know I look back on, the thing that I love about the human game is it really does, if you'll forgive me, weave together all of these different threads that have been important to
Yeah.
me, that I have explored and tried to connect, but they've never quite fit together. It's like, now it's like, oh, everything,
Yeah.
everything
What did
connects now.
uh, Kevin? What did all of the entrance of that additional information once you got into astrology, as you began to gain some insights here and there? How did it begin to affect the character development,
Well,
your character
yes, yes.
development? How did it?
I I have always instinctively engaged with my life from different levels of story, and always observed the theme level and worked very hard to
Mm-hmm.
find the connections. And
Yes.
so these teachers that I worked with that shaped my approach to counseling, I mean, very, and it was one on one. It wasn't any kind of formal training. I didn't know where these ideas, but I they shaped, worked with me personally, working through my stuff, and then gave me a framework for how I liked approaching counseling work.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask you right here for a second, Kevin. How did, again, all of that information, and you had your teachers and the folks around you, because I know we have to go back to the origin story, because the origin story is in there pulling one of the threads that are within the character development, and
mm,
then you have to come to I guess you have to come to a realization that this origin story, there are things within that origin story that is really affecting me and causing my character development to go in a place that I'm having some problems. I'm thinking a certain way, I'm acting a certain way, I'm behaving a certain way.
mm.
What was that you started to find, Kevin? Because I know you started to find and look things and go, oh man, I gotta work on this. What were some of those things that you began to discover as you began to use the tools of astrology within your character development that was a part of your origin story
Um,
from the trauma, all the trauma that took place?
I hesitate to call. I hesitate to say there was much trauma in the origin story. I mean, it's really
Yeah,
this wasn't this was not a flowers in the attic situation. Um,
yeah.
but but let me also clarify: it doesn't. We each. You're the only character in your. You're only the actual real person in your story. Everybody else is playing a character in your story loosely based on who they are.
Yeah.
So my parents, I don't know who my parents are. I know the characters in my story loosely based on my parents, and they served me because it was all about
Mm-hmm.
me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find a way of answering the question in a way that makes sense, because there wasn't anything
Yeah.
specific
Yeah.
thematically.
Mm-hmm.
The big issue, um, uh, thematically the big issues were my story about God,
Mm-hmm.
um, my relationship to the idea of God, um,
Mm-hmm.
tied in many ways to my story about my relationship with my father,
Mm-hmm.
because our parents are on a thematic level. They're the first level surrogates for God,
Yeah.
and resolving and a lot of anger
Yeah.
towards my father, a lot of anger towards God. Wouldn't even use the G word for many
Yeah.
years because it didn't it didn't resonate. It didn't bring me any peace.
Yeah.
Um, and I I have always been guided by my inner knowing, been guided by my intuition. I've always been willing to take these giant leaps of faith to
Yeah.
pursue something. So I did not know what I was working on. I just realized, oh, I'm interested in this stuff. I've got these interesting people, and exploring things that are spiritual and metaphysical, and I'm interested in that and learning, and I'm just going to follow wherever this goes.
Mm-hmm.
And did that for many years without a map, without any kind of intention.
Yeah.
And a lot of this I learned on my own, but again, by taking a principle and going, okay, this is an interesting theoretical idea. I need to turn this into something absolutely solid and practical that I can live by.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was doing a lot of counseling work. And while I
Yeah.
was doing counseling work, I was absolutely understanding that it's never, I mean, never the other person.
Yeah.
Never. So I would work with, and I would talk about this. The person giving the advice is the person that needs to hear that advice.
Yeah.
And so I knew, hey, part of the way I'm being supported in my journey is I'm attracting clients that are going to reflect back to me things that I also need to be working on, but I don't see
Yeah.
it because I don't look at or understand my own chart, but I can see it in somebody else's chart and explore a pattern and go, ooh, what about blah, 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 blah. And then in my little
Yeah.
debrief with myself after the session, going, it probably applies to me too. But I would incorporate that. I would
Yeah.
do the work to the best of my ability
Yeah.
with that. Um, but I pinballed my way around because I didn't, all of these different ideas, all of these different teachers and traditions and
Mm-hmm.
and things. Um, I didn't have ironically, for someone that wanted, it's like, just show me the shortest path to the destination. I had no idea, because
Yeah.
I also always kind of embraced and enjoyed the idea that there is something bigger making sure that I don't get too far off the rails in my story.
Yeah.
That there's
Yeah.
gonna be something, that things show up. There are moments that show up. It's like, oh yeah, that was really clunky story wise, but it was, yeah, no, you need to get back on the track here.
Yeah.
Something would show up and go, nope, just,
Yeah.
and I would, I love those. I find those
Yeah.
entertaining. I find those amusing. Um,
Yeah, those are little pieces and nuggets that we still need, uh, parts of the puzzle as we're putting it together. So,
Always.
as you're moving through, Kevin, and you're counseling people and you're seeing they're making you aware of your scotoma, your blind side, so you can make your adjustment within your character.
Mhm.
As you said in the onset, that it was 2 years, and I know this was in around COVID and so forth. And I tell people COVID came to stop us from all the crazy stuff we were in there and start probing and allow us the time, Kevin, allow us the time to begin to become. I tell people, enlightenment to me means that you and I are becoming better students of ourselves.
Mhm.
And I am becoming enlightened about me. And as I
Mhm.
become enlightened about me, when I look at you, I don't see you through the dark lens anymore. I'm seeing
Mhm.
you through a brighter lens as I
Mhm.
become brighter.
Mhm.
And my reaction to you changes. Um, when 2 years ago, I'm a totally different person now, even yesterday. So here you are, and COVID has caused you now to, as you said, you made a couple of adjustments, a couple of pivots. What happened right here, uh, uh, Kevin? What happened right here within that time period as you began to meditate and pull all of the pieces together? And when that eureka moment hit you, do you remember what it is and what circumstances got you there?
It wasn't a eureka moment, and COVID really,
Hmm.
I I work from home. I don't
Yeah,
like relying on other people. COVID did not change my life very much. It
yeah.
was not it was not a, it was not a big thing for me.
Hmm.
I teach virtually anyway. There were, so yeah. Um this was not a eureka moment.
Mm-hmm.
with the human game. I mean, literally, I was working on the human game for more than a year before I understood what the heck it was.
Yeah.
What gradually happened was I got to a high enough point on this particular mountain that I could see all of the things that were coming together. But I have been working actively towards this without understanding what it was for
Mm-hmm.
decades. And this draws on I I I am able to make connections between
Mm-hmm.
completely unrelated things
Yeah.
in ways that other people just don't.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that has been described to me as a definition of genius, and it
Mm-hmm.
probably is, but that doesn't mean what people think it means, because it doesn't mean I'm smarter. It just means I see things differently and things make perfect sense to me. And let me tell you how much that sucks, because I cannot then get other people easily. It's like I get the inside, I see, ooh, that. All this makes perfect sense. And then I've got 2 years of
Mm-hmm.
hard work before anybody stops looking at me like
Yeah.
I've grown a second head. Because figuring out how to, I'm over here and then there's no path, and I have to figure out how do I build the path so I can take
Mm-hmm.
somebody by the hand and walk them step by step to get them over. And now you see what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And that's been a lifelong, that's the price. It's been
Yeah. Yeah.
frustrating. The gift is I do
Yeah.
get to create things that genuinely didn't exist
Yeah.
before.
So
So,
talk to me about some of those people. Like right now you have the package together. I tell people this, Kevin. I said, it's a dish we're cooking. And the dish is being cooked and we're putting in a couple this and that, and then we taste it and it doesn't taste right, and then we keep adding and keep adjusting the dish. And then one day, Kevin, we throw that last spice in there,
mhm.
and then we mix it up a little, and we take that spoon, drop a little in the hand, and lick that thing, and we go, yes, it is ready. So talk to me about after you finish cooking this dish, Kevin, and you're about to serve it to someone. And as you begin to serve this dish, walk with me as they're beginning, as the first taste hits them, and then they begin to taste it a little more, and then the next thing you know, at the end, they cleaned up the plate. They finally got it. They enjoyed the dish. Talk to us about the human game and how you walk them through and bring them into that space of the joy and the happiness that you are now a champion about trying to get them there. That lady tried a couple of years ago to tell you about it, and you looked at her going, that don't make any sense about serving. So talk to you about that first person after you've got it all, the dish is cooked, and you're now serving this person. What happened to them, Kevin?
Okay. Um, I need to clarify a little bit about the frame of that question, because it's not quite
Yeah.
how it happened. I was serving this. I was developing the dish by taste testing it on very brave clients and students who are willing to take a chance, and then just
Yeah.
seeing their reaction. Okay, yeah, that didn't work. Nope, that doesn't work yet
Yeah.
either. Nope, that's sorry about that. Because I couldn't do it any other way. Because I really, again, realizing, oh yeah, gee, all along I really do need other people. Because I need to know that I've connected this with other people.
Yeah.
And the things that made the difference.
Yeah.
There were several ideas, and then they took some time to piece together. I realized, and we mentioned this earlier, I realized I've been teaching spirituality from the theme level, and it's always been very compartmentalized because it doesn't connect. And I say, but that's truth. But I want to dive into the big spiritual truth. And I'm realizing, yeah, but it's not useful for people. And so I had to retell this entire story and say, I need to tell this story. I need to put together a story that meets people where they are.
Mm-hmm.
I need to connect this at the plot level, even recognizing that what everybody really wants is to be happy. Great.
Yeah.
That's still a character level thing. That's not where you are. Objectively, you think, yes, I'd like to be happy. What you really care about is getting everything you ever wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And no, that's not necessarily going to make you happy. And that's the spiritual scold, but getting what you want doesn't make you happy. Say, okay, sure, but I still want what I want.
Yeah.
And so I reframed this story by saying, hey, I'm going to help you get everything you ever wanted. By the way, I'm going to help you do that in a way that is also going to make you happy. Yeah. Because getting what you want it's not that it doesn't make you happy. It's just that it's not the whole condition. It doesn't automatically make you happy. There are things that go around getting what you want that have to be there for it to make you happy. But you don't really care about that right now. You just care about being happy, and you think to do that is the way to get what you want. So I put together this sequence of stories to take from where your current story is and say, let's look at what happiness is. You want to be happy. Great. If you'd like to achieve a goal, you need to know 3 things. You need to know what the goal is. You got to define it. You have to know how do I know when I've gotten there? What is it? Yeah. You need to know where it is. And then you need to kind of have an idea of how you think you're trying to get from here to there. Mm-hmm. When it comes to happiness, we're 0 for 3. Yeah. We don't know what happiness is. So I start by let's redefine, you know what it is, we don't know where it is. Mm-hmm. And so how you're trying to get there really doesn't matter. We think happiness is a feeling. We can agree on that. So right away, it's a character level thing, not a plot level thing. It doesn't exist in the outside world because it's a feeling. Feelings exist inside you. When we've experienced happiness in the past, and we've only ever experienced moments of happiness generally, they're usually right around getting something that we want. So for most people, we start out with, your definition of happiness is the feeling you experience when you get what you want. Mm-hmm. So, okay, let's test that theory. If that is in fact a workable definition of happiness, mm-hmm. every time you get what you want, you would feel happy. And anytime you don't get what you want, you wouldn't feel happy. Sometimes when you get what you want, you feel happy. Mm-hmm. But other times you get what you want and you're not happy about it. Most of the time you don't get what you want and you're not happy. But some of the time you don't get what you want and you realize, oh, thank goodness. Oh my, that would have been a disaster getting what I wanted. I'm so happy I didn't get the thing that I wanted. Yeah. So getting what you want has something to do with being happy. Nothing wrong with getting what you want, but it's not enough to make you happy. Yeah. Where is happiness? Well, it's a feeling, so it lives inside you. Yeah. And that's absolutely true and infuriatingly impractical. What can you actually do with that information? Oh, money can't buy happiness. Happiness lives inside you. Okay, great. I don't know how to look there. Give me
Yeah.
a practical set of steps so I don't know how to do that. And so we look at that and go, well, it's probably inside me, and no, it doesn't live in the outside world. But money and prosperity and success certainly doesn't necessarily bring happiness, but it's happiness adjacent. It's certainly seen, so most of our strategies is, okay, I'm going to pursue my external goals. I'm going to try to get money and success and fame and love and whatever, and hopefully that will eventually lead me to happiness. So basically our current philosophy, most people's current philosophy about happiness is, people who think money can't buy happiness just don't know where to shop.
Yeah.
So not knowing where it is, not knowing what it is, how we're going about it doesn't really matter. So I build this story, and I give you the first part of it in that little free video at playthehumangame.com. You get the first part of this.
Yeah.
But I come up with a workable definition of happiness. Happiness is the feeling you experience when you're free from want and free from need.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big, so for happiness doesn't necessarily feel good. Happiness just means you no longer feel bad.
Yeah.
Happiness isn't joy.
Yeah.
Happiness means you don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
You have options. So I talk about this as building a foundation of happiness. And the other thing about happiness, we think it comes at the end of the story, because stories end with happily ever after.
Yeah.
But happily ever after is not the end of the story. Happily ever after is just the end, it's the end of the story. It's not the end of your life.
Yeah.
Because it's right there, happily ever after. There's this ever after. Your life goes on ever after, and you don't ever have to worry about happiness, because happiness is there as a foundation ever after.
Yeah.
So happily ever after isn't a happy ending, it's a happy beginning.
Yeah.
So getting to this place of, how do you meet your needs? How are you going about this? And I build out these stories, and it's a sequence, because you got to take it one step at a time. I need to help you to understand a little bit about how stories work, and then you apply this to your life a little bit, and you play this and go, "Oh, there's the structure of story. Oh, I see this," and then it's like, okay. So it's current strategy for happiness. A little spoiler alert here.
Yeah.
To be happy, you need to maintain the minimum balance in your need bank account. And again, I build these components so that you understand what a need bank account is, and it makes sense, because you can't drop any stitches. That's what I learned. This is not cooking, this is baking. There is a sequence of precise ingredients that must go in there, or the person is not going to get it.
Yeah.
Learned that the hard way. But to be happy, you need to maintain a minimum balance in your need bank account. When you get what you want, the reason you want something that you want is you think that when you get what you want, it'll make a deposit in your need bank account. So when your need is met, when it meets that minimum balance, the need is met, you no longer want anything. Mm-hmm. To go after what we want, we set a goal in the outside world. Because want is a feeling, so that's a character level story, but we associate it with a plot level goal, some external thing that you want to achieve. And you think, when I achieve this, that will mean that I get what I want, which is making a deposit in the need bank account, which will then maintain the minimum balance in the need bank account, which will then result in me being happy. Mm-hmm. To pursue that goal, you have to spend some of the resources from your need bank account. Yeah. And there's no guarantee that you're going to achieve the goal. There's no guarantee that if you achieve the goal, you're going to get enough resources back to make up the difference or bring the need bank account up to the minimum balance. So basically, your current strategy to maintain a minimum balance in your need bank account so that you can experience happiness is to gamble in the happiness casino. And this is a great story. First of all, it's not Happiness Casino is not an actual casino. It's a story about a casino.
Yeah.
Gambling in a casino is fun when the stakes are low, when you can't lose anything. But it's probably not a great way. It's probably not a great strategy to, maintain a bank balance.
Yeah.
But working within that, and then I built out that story and looking at the specific, okay, you need to meet safety needs, you need to meet validation needs, you meet your safety needs, you meet your validation needs. You do those largely in the happiness casino, and I'm going to show you how you can win. I'm going to show you how you can have fun playing the game, but I had to drill this stuff down. So I'm circling back to your question about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
I'd been teaching safety and validation needs and need bank accounts. I've been teaching this for more than 20 years.
Yeah.
I had spiritual practices about safety needs and how to build the balance in your safety need account. And it's been nice. It's been useful, but it's been kind of compartmentalized. And as I was building this story, I realized, oh yeah, no, I gotta tear that thing down. I'm still telling that from a character level story. I gotta tell this from a plot level story. What specifically do safety need resources do? How does this translate in a practical way? How can you tell when you're not feeling safe? What is it, and I assembled this in a way that was like, I broke out the game that you play in the plot level casino and how it works, and there's illustrations of it. It's you choose a task, you move towards it, you hit an obstacle, and then you're in the options market, and you have to choose an option as to how you want to overcome that obstacle. And every option costs a certain amount of safety, and there's a chance of winning, and you get a certain amount back, and the balance in your safety need account determines how expensive things are in the options market. Yeah. So anytime in your life that you have found yourself not willing to make a decision about something, what's actually happening is you have hit an obstacle in the plot level game. You are standing in the options market. You are looking at the options board, and you do not see an attractive option because there's nothing that's going to mean that you got a chance of winning. Everything's going to cost you. And without going into all of the detail on this, because it's getting abstract, this actually works. And I have currently some coaching clients that have been students of mine for 10 years. I've been working with them as counseling clients for quite some time. And when I took them through this new story, when I explained the new story about safety needs and the happiness casino and the options market, they got it. They got it. It made sense. It was like, oh, now I understand why safety is so important. Now I understand why this matters and how I want to go after this now. And then, they were playing with the stories, the astrology stories I gave them to create safety resources with the happiness GPS. And it's just the transformation that they've experienced in the last couple of weeks playing with this, where this story works. It's just that is what I had been working to achieve for like 25 years.
Wow.
So that was, but it took all of these pieces. It took realizing I got to tell a better story. I have to understand how to make this a better story and how to help people to assemble this story without missing a stitch. Because one little missing component is going to be enough that it doesn't hold together.
Yeah.
But once it holds together, first, it's a great story. It becomes practical. And then you play with it, and it's like, oh, yeah, this is fun. I'm going to keep playing with this. And then we can build on that. And then you're able,
Everyone that is
then it's like,
listening.
okay, now you're feeling safe. Now you get to understand what's going on with validation resources, because what you think, because your relationship to love
Yeah.
transforms based on whether or not you're meeting your safety needs.
Yeah. I got it.
You
Everyone
know,
that's been listening to this conversation, and you've heard Kevin explain the game, as they said, and I love it. Um, I need you guys to get in touch with him, and he's going to walk you through how to play the human game, how to tell the story so that you can create this new outcome. And he mentioned about once he developed it totally and he began to talk to his clients that he had for many years, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, everything changed. And so, all you guys, just get in touch with him, get into the class. I'm going to provide everything for you so you can reach him and begin to change your story. Kevin, thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Man,